We judge too fast. Picture Nathaniel Reed holding lipsticks at a beauty counter. 2 concealers and a makeup palette he held completely upside down. Rumpled shirt, confused eyes. Scarlet haze sized him up in under 4 seconds. Assuming he was another clueless guy doing the bare minimum, last-minute panic. A careless dad excusing his terrible cosmetic choices before even buying them. Her harsh judgment was firmly locked in, then his phone rang. He turned away, lowered his head, and whispered, "Don't cry, Chloe. I promise I'll bring something home tonight. Something to help you feel as beautiful as Mom always said you were." Her quick judgment completely vanished. Let's step back. That beauty counter stretched across the entire ground floor, lit brightly from every angle, glaring in that harsh white light that makes every makeup product look far more expensive than reality. Nathaniel had wandered for 20 minutes, shuffling between displays, squinting at a blurry phone screenshot he clearly could not even read, asking desperate questions that no one in the beauty shop knew how to answer. He asked a busy store associate about finding a cosmetic product to cover red marks on very sensitive skin. The worker had just pointed him in 3 different directions within 6 short minutes. Scarlett had witnessed the whole disaster. She just wanted a specific blush shade. She planned to leave in 10 minutes. But she stayed because this struggling man deeply irritated her in a specific, familiar way. You and I know that look of pure carelessness. The kind of neglect you spot from across a crowded room when you have survived it yourself for far too long. She was gripping a blush tester when she noticed his bare hand. He turned back to the makeup display after the phone call. He reached for the concealer he'd circled for 15 minutes, and his fingers were not steady at all. Not shaking but trembling like a man who has been carrying an unbearable heavy burden for a very long time. And that unseen weight was finally showing in his tired, strained muscles. Scarlett slowly put the tester down. For the first time tonight, she realized she had judged him completely wrong. His wife Elizabeth died 14 months prior on a Tuesday, crashing on a stretch of highway she had driven hundreds of times. Another driver ran a red light. The brutal impact hit the passenger side, right where 9-year-old Chloe sat. And by some dark, incredibly terrible stroke of geometry, Elizabeth absorbed the full collision, while her young daughter somehow survived the crash with a massive laceration starting at her left temple, curving viciously down her cheekbone all the way toward her jaw. Little Chloe lived. Tragically, Elizabeth did not. Nathaniel had always been a wonderful husband, and he desperately kept trying to be a truly good father. But Elizabeth navigated their domestic life with an effortless grace that Nathaniel always admired from a safe, very respectful distance. She knew exactly how to make Chloe feel beautiful before the child even had words for what beauty truly meant. She knew which beauty products caught her daughter's eyes and what sounds made her laugh whenever she felt sad. Nathaniel could fix leaking pipes and grip Chloe's hand in the dark whenever bad dreams haunted her sleep. But the delicate vocabulary of raising girls, that was Elizabeth's country. We judge too fast. You might see a clueless guy who doesn't know the customs. Since the accident last year, his daughter Chloe had gone so quiet. That silence terrified him way more than crying. She completely avoided mirrors, kept her hair hanging loose across her face. During the family Christmas photos, she would always turn slightly away. Whenever other preteen girls casually chatted about their hair and makeup, Chloe would freeze up. She'd always find an excuse to leave. He constantly called her beautiful, insisting that her facial scar meant nothing. She took it with the gentle patience of a kid who adores her dad but deeply knows. Deep down, she figured he had absolutely no clue what he meant. Just 3 weeks before his wife Elizabeth passed away, she grabbed his hands. If Chloe ever starts to feel like she isn't beautiful anymore, you have to be the one who reminds her that's not true. Not in some massive way, just do not let her believe it. He just nodded back, the kind of nod you give when you think a promise won't be tested. He was wrong. So before you judge this 38-year-old dad looking completely panicked in his very first beauty store, staring blankly at products he doesn't grasp, understand that he's just honoring a simple vow he made to his dying wife, which quickly turned out to be the absolute hardest thing anyone had ever asked of him. This whole school event began as something Chloe truly wanted. Her teacher, Mrs. Hargrove, had been so gentle bringing her in. She told Chloe straight up that her singing voice deserved to be heard. She promised the night had zero to do with looks, only the music mattered. So for a few weeks Chloe practiced. She picked out a song. Alone in her bedroom every night, she finally allowed herself to actually want this. Then some classmate, not trying to be mean, just oblivious, made a passing comment while they were talking about the event's photo shoot. She mentioned a little concealer might help hide Chloe's facial scar from the camera. That kid really didn't mean to hurt her. She thought she was just sharing tips. You know how kids deliver the most brutal insults while trying to be genuinely helpful? But Chloe walked through the door that afternoon carrying that. Heavy silence, the exact kind Nathaniel recognized as pure heartbreak in disguise. Halfway through dinner, she forced a painfully casual tone and told him she didn't want to go to the music performance anymore. He let her make up random excuses for an hour. Finally, she confessed what that girl had said, and the quiet that filled the room. She shed no tears, but her eyes just went completely dead. That quiet broke him. He spent the next few days obsessively spinning the problem around. Just like he tackled issues at his job, hunting for any weak spot to push. He dug up one of Elizabeth's dusty cosmetic bags from the closet. She'd saved a tiny makeup kit specifically for Chloe's recitals and family pictures. Inside was a specific skin concealer he remembered his wife using. Soft, natural, not a heavy mask. Just enough to catch the light beautifully. He messaged Elizabeth's close friend, Dana. Someone who truly navigated the beauty world like Elizabeth. Dana texted back 3 items, so don't judge the dad reading her instructions. He started by researching online. He studied 4 videos about concealing scars, focusing with the intense dedication of a guy trying to solve a completely foreign technical puzzle. He even called the school, asking Mrs. Hargrove if Chloe had officially withdrawn. She hadn't, so he begged for just one more day to fix things. By Thursday evening, Nathaniel rushed to the mall 40 minutes before closing, clutching a blurry screenshot. He held a receipt covered in notes. He moved with the fierce determination of a father who made a promise and meant it. This is why we shouldn't judge. He looked completely out of his depth. Right then, a text from his daughter lit up his phone. He read it standing right there, trapped between eyeshadow palettes and makeup setting sprays. It read, "If you can't find it, it's really okay, Dad. I am pretty used to being left out of things anyway." He froze for a second, then he went right back to searching. That's when Scarlett approached him, not like a shopper just trying to squeeze past, but stepping up with real purpose, choosing to face him directly instead. "I owe you an apology," she said. Her voice was quiet, holding a heavy, genuine sincerity. "What I said before about someone feeling unappreciated, I had no clue what I was talking about. I am truly sorry." He studied her face for a moment, offering a gentle nod. "It's fine," he told her, and he truly meant it. No hidden bitterness, no lingering ego. He honestly just accepted her apology. That struck her, how simply and graciously he forgave her quick judgment. "Can I ask who you're actually shopping for?" she asked gently. He paused, slowly putting down 2 random lipsticks. "My daughter," he replied to her. "She is 11. She has this scar from a bad accident. Her big school event is tomorrow, so I need to find something to cover it up gently. Just enough to help her." He stared blankly at the cosmetics. "I honestly have no clue what I'm doing here." "No," Scarlett whispered, full of warmth. "I can clearly see that." He almost cracked a smile. She examined the items he held. Her new assessment was nothing like her harsh judgment from earlier, because she finally understood who he was doing this for. You see, she previously spent 3 years consulting for a major cosmetics brand. Her specialty was inclusive makeup ranges, meaning she truly understood skincare products formulated specifically for sensitive or heavily compromised skin. She knew every camouflage line perfectly. She knew exactly which lightweight foundations provided real glow. "What is her skin tone?" she asked him. Nathaniel opened his phone, showing a photo of Chloe laughing at Christmas. With her hair actually pulled back, the pink scar stood out clearly across her cheek. A gorgeous kid, totally oblivious in that happy moment that anyone was snapping her picture. Scarlett studied the picture for a beat, longer than she really needed to. Then she faced the beauty display, moving through the skincare products with absolute precision. She grabbed a soothing primer, plus a concealer exactly 2 shades lighter than the skin. You have to work with a scar's raised texture, instead of fighting against it. Next, a satin cushion foundation, not matte which flattens everything out, but satin catching the light perfectly. Then a compact eyeshadow palette featuring warm neutrals. Finally, a makeup setting mist so delicate a kid wouldn't even notice it. She lined them up on the beauty counter, perfectly arranged for step-by-step application. The clerk dug out a pen and carefully wrote the makeup steps on a bookmark. She handed the father the card, along with 5 cosmetic products. The goal isn't hiding her scar, the clerk explained. It's giving her face more options in the light. Does that make sense? The dad nodded. Yes, that makes sense. He thanked her quietly, the way a person does when they truly mean it. No big fuss needed. There was something striking in the simple honesty of his quiet reaction. It was an interaction so pure and free of ego, the clerk couldn't quite process what she was witnessing. If things tonight don't go perfectly, she offered. She raised her voice as he headed to the register. Just call me. If you were watching, you'd see the father stop, his face flashing pure surprise and sudden quiet recognition. He simply nodded once and then he walked away. The apartment was perfectly quiet when the dad got home. His young daughter had fallen asleep on the couch. The TV murmured over a half-eaten bowl of cereal. He draped a blanket over her, a special blanket that used to belong to his late wife, Elizabeth. Then he sat alone at the dark kitchen table, unpacking that bag of cosmetics. He spread the bottles out, reading the clerk's handwritten notes twice over. His tired eyes drifted to a photo of Elizabeth on the fridge. The picture from the summer before the terrible accident, her smiling face tipped up toward the sun. His wife would have known exactly how to use all this stuff. She would have turned this cosmetic fix into a fun adventure, rather than some highly stressful repair job. But this single dad didn't know how to do that. He only knew how to try, so he practiced on his own forearm. The concealer blended in a way that truly surprised him, much lighter than expected. More like fixing the lighting than putting on thick paint. He tested out the small sponge from the makeup kit. The soft sponge definitely worked better. Let's pause right here. At 11:30, he was still practicing when his daughter appeared in her pajamas. She simply stood there and watched her dad. Seeing this exhausted man hunched over a kitchen table, lining up beauty products like a science project. He had concealer smeared down his arms. His face did that heartbreaking thing people do when they desperately want to look okay, but are completely falling apart inside. She slowly walked to the table and sat across from him without uttering a single word. You don't have to attend school tomorrow, the dad promised. I want you to know that. She gave a slow nod. But if I choose to go, then I'm going to figure this out. I just need a little more time. Then the young girl stared at the clerk's handwritten makeup steps. Did somebody help you with this? She asked. A woman down at the store, he admitted. She knew what she was talking about. His daughter quietly considered this. Then can we try? His first makeup attempt was far too heavy. The cosmetic coverage sat so thick along her scar that it actually made the jagged lines stand out even more. The poor girl stared at her reflection in the hand mirror, going completely still. That sudden silence made his stomach drop. He quickly grabbed his cell phone. He stared hard at the glowing screen for a moment. You might think it's crazy calling a stranger at 11:40 for cosmetic advice, but that's love. So he called. The clerk answered and gently waved off his desperate late-night apologies. Use less product than you think, she guided him. You aren't filling a gap, you're just softening the rough edges. Think of it like balancing the light, not hiding her. See, we never really know who someone is fighting for. Just help her light come through. That was his only job. He tried again, much gentler this time. He stopped trying to fix it all. The result was softer, much more like her. Chloe stared into that small mirror for a long time. Finally, she lowered it, looking at him. Do I look like I did when Mom was still here? She whispered. For a moment, the father could not speak. He rested his hand over hers. You look like yourself, he said, which is what she loved most. Once the call finally ended, Scarlett sat silently in her dim living room. She did not turn the television on. Her apartment was arranged exactly how she needed it, perfectly clean lines. Very deliberate choices, everything was chosen with extreme care. She had lived completely alone for 3 years since breaking the engagement. She arranged this quiet space exactly how she managed the rest of her solitary life. with absolute precision. She left zero empty space that could be mistaken for an invitation. But this awkward father did not fit any category her walls were built to block. You see, she once loved a man who always said the perfect things in exactly the right tone, yet he was, beneath that polished surface, entirely absent. Totally absent during her mother's illness. Absent through the dark years after a terrible loss she kept completely to herself. Gone during those normal days when you just need someone to actually be there, not just pretending. She ended it with more calm than she truly felt, and she moved on. She stepped right into a life built entirely upon her very own resources. She finally decided that this was enough. Yet looking at this father's awkward effort, she recognized exactly what she had wanted all along. Not impressively, not with smooth technique. We might judge a clumsy man holding makeup, but this exhausted father was trying something terrifying just because his beloved daughter desperately needed him. He was never asking for credit. He was not faking a perfect version of himself for anyone. She recalled his desperate words on the phone at the store. The face you were born with was made to be held up, not down. She had been replaying that constantly. She thought about her own life of hiding behind carefully crafted angles. How she always presented only the perfect parts, while hiding her broken pieces slightly away. She called it self-control. Tonight she was not nearly as sure about that. She stared at her phone calendar, at a makeup consultation she had planned for 2 weeks. She stared for a brief moment, then she boldly moved it. The morning sky was gray. The school parking lot was totally packed when Nathaniel and Chloe finally arrived. He had applied the grey concealer back at the kitchen table. Chloe sat perfectly still, trusting her dad completely. A quiet trust that made him feel the heavy weight of that responsibility. He gently added the cushion foundation afterward, so careful, and the result. He nervously realized it was much closer to his true intention than the first try. And that is what mattered most. Chloe sat quietly, not the sad silence he always dreaded, but a different kind, electric, hopeful, waiting for what was next. You and I know that quiet, the silence of someone holding a brave decision. Let's watch this without judging. He was parking when she spotted that cruel phone alert. She had already caught the harsh, visible text. 2 moms chatting about the school pictures, ending with a truly nasty comment. The kind of careless cruelty from people forgetting someone else might actually be reading. They claimed certain children would need serious extra makeup just to look decent in pictures. And they targeted one kid directly, Chloe. Total silence instantly flooded the car. He could only watch the cruel words land. He saw the brave face she built that morning start to slowly tear at the seams. She reached up and grabbed her hair, dragging it forward to hide herself. "I don't want to go inside," she whispered. "He just killed the engine." He stayed quiet for a second. Then he shifted his body to look directly at her. "Listen to me," he told her. "I didn't buy all this makeup to change how you look. I bought it because you wanted to attend, and my job is getting you there." He stopped. If another person's joke dictates whether you walk inside, then they just won. And they don't deserve to win. They haven't earned it. She just stared down at her hands. "But if you truly want to skip this," he said calmly, "I will drive us straight home to make pancakes and watch movies all afternoon long. I will always choose you over that stage." Suddenly, a soft tap hit the passenger side glass. Scarlett stood out in the lot. Chloe slowly rolled her window down. Scarlett crouched to her eye level and smiled warmly. "I heard today is huge." Chloe just stared back at her. "Someone wrote I need heavy makeup just to look okay in the pictures." Scarlett let that sit for a moment. Then she spoke. "At your age, I had a massive tooth gap. I was totally convinced everyone stared at it before they ever saw the real me. I actually practiced closed-mouth smiles for an entire year." She stopped, "But the people who loved me never brought that gap up. And the folks who did point it out, they didn't really love me. It took me years to finally figure out the difference between them." Chloe sat completely still for a second. Then she asked so carefully, "If I go inside, where are you standing, Dad? How will I find you?" Nathaniel pointed out the glass, aiming right at the front of the auditorium stage. "Right there," he promised. "First face you will see. Now stick with me here." Backstage was an absolute madhouse of stressed parents and kids. Teachers crammed into a tiny room with a dozen frantic emergencies popping off at once. frantic costume fixes and kids sprinting. A stressed teacher shouting orders with a clipboard that clearly was not solving the madness. Nathaniel carefully navigated through. He carried Chloe's little makeup bag to a quiet spot near the crowded changing stalls. Crouching down, he muttered, "One last check." Scarlett stayed standing a few feet away. That was deliberate. This tender duty was his alone. He used the small sponge to tap concealer onto her scar, lightly, never pressing hard. You see it now. She sat perfectly safe under his careful hands. "Stop," Chloe said. He froze instantly. She gently pulled the cosmetic sponge from his hands, studying her reflection in that tiny mirror. "I don't want to hide it all," she told him. He stayed completely frozen. "Just the light foundation," she murmured. Reaching into the makeup bag, she pulled out a tiny eyeshadow compact, that specific pale silver shade, asking for just a touch. Right here, she tapped the outer edge of her left eye. Right where her scar was, like a little star beside it, not hiding it at all. Nathaniel stared at his little girl. She caught his gaze in the glass. "Okay," she whispered. He swallowed hard, clearing his throat. "Okay," he replied. Watch him work. You might judge a man clumsily applying foundation, but he created an even glow, exactly how Scarlett taught him. Then, with the tiniest brush, he pressed that silver powder to the corner of Chloe's eye, just the faintest hint of a shimmer. A tiny speck of absolute, deliberate brightness, placed right beside the very mark she had spent over 12 months trying to bury. He backed away. Chloe studied her reflection. She tilted her chin up, turning her head just slightly. She looked right at that scar and at the shimmer, at how her eye caught the harsh backstage glow and threw it right back. She lowered the mirror. "Good," she breathed, just one quiet word but meaning every bit. Behind them both, Scarlett stared at the floor, jaw tight. Fighting back tears she absolutely refused to let fall in the middle of a grade school auditorium. A teacher walked over, patting Chloe's shoulder. The little girl stood taller. She locked eyes with Nathaniel. "I know where you're standing," she said. He rested his hand on top of her head briefly. "You only need to be Chloe Reed today," he whispered. "That is exactly enough." That auditorium held maybe 200 people, mostly tired parents and kids packed into folding chairs. The overhead stage lights burned warm and a little too bright, bathing all the children in that classic golden schoolhouse blur. The kind of overexposed photos that still look absolutely stunning in an album 20 years later. And there was Nathaniel, standing exactly where he promised he'd be. Scarlett sat roughly 5 folding chairs down to his right. Before you judge a father's clumsiness, know he burned his hand ironing that pale blue dress his daughter wore, 4th from the left. She walked on stage staring at the floor. Then her chin lifted. She spotted her dad instantly and refused to look away. She had a beautiful singing voice. Elizabeth always said so, ever since she was tiny. Listening to her right now from 2 rows back in those chairs. Nathaniel finally understood that completely. Chloe sang looking slightly up. It opened her throat exactly how she practiced, an angle that deliberately stopped hiding her face. She didn't flinch or turn away from the spotlight. She planted both feet entirely flat, letting that beam hit her squarely. He felt the exact moment she finally made that choice, a tiny shoulder shift totally invisible from 20 feet out. But a shift he knew perfectly, the way parents just memorize the shape of their kids. She had decided she was fully there. For the group photo, the photographer asked all the kids to face forward. Never rushed to judge. After a year of turning away, Chloe faced the camera. She stepped into shadows behind a taller kid, facing the camera bravely. Showing her left side, the side with the scar, the side with that tiny dot of silver shimmer makeup resting right beside her eye. Mrs. Hargrove wiped away tears just the way that teachers do when they desperately want to hide they are crying. After the school event, that judgmental woman from the parent group finally approached Nathaniel. She said quietly, "I'm sorry about what I wrote this morning. It was thoughtless. Your daughter is lovely." Nathaniel looked back at her, surprisingly gentle. He said, "Children remember what they see in the eyes of grown-ups more than they remember the words. That's worth keeping in mind." She just nodded and left. Then Chloe came sprinting over in that blue dress, crashing into her single dad's arms. Her arms wrapped tight around him, face buried against his chest. "I think Mom was watching," she said. He just held his daughter tighter. No words were needed. Pulling back, Chloe spotted Scarlett standing just a few feet away and rushed right over to her. Scarlett caught the girl by the shoulders, crouching down so they were perfectly eye level. Glowing and completely breathless, Chloe looked up and said, "Will you come have dinner with us? Dad can't really cook, but he's been trying to learn." Scarlett glanced up, meeting Nathaniel's eyes right over Chloe's head. He was watching them, wearing an expression you and I rarely catch in public. A look meant for no one, which he just hadn't hidden fast enough. "I'll come for dinner," Scarlett replied softly. Dinner was oversalted pasta drenched in jarred sauce, next to a salad dressed way too early that was already turning sad and wilted. But Nathaniel had set that table perfectly. Chloe wore her favorite comfy sweatshirt, and she was already chatting away about the entire afternoon before they even fully walked through the front door. Let's judge by love, not looks. This dinner was messy but beautifully real. Chloe recounted the school play with that wild, breathless, deeply enthusiastic energy of kids who desperately need you to feel exactly what they were feeling inside. She rattled on about the stage lights, her classmates, and how Mrs. Hargrove burst into tears, plus the photograph which she absolutely planned to ask for. She dominated the conversation, expertly chewing her pasta between stories with the bright focus of a kid who simply has important things to share. Nathaniel simply poured water. Filling glasses, he asked perfect questions and watched his little daughter with a deep peace settling over his face that had been missing for years. Scarlett quietly ate that sad salad without a single complaint, giving Chloe the exact kind of warm attention every child deserves to get. Offering her total genuine focus, not just faking it to be polite. She asked all about Mrs. Hargrove and if Chloe wanted to do the big school event next year. Yes, probably, Chloe said. It sounded like a solid fact, no doubts left. When the little girl finally burned out and drifted into the living room, Nathaniel and Scarlett just sat across the kitchen table, the messy leftovers of dinner resting quietly between them. You and I know that profound silence. The room felt warm and alive, never empty. "I owe you more than I know how to say," Nathaniel finally whispered. "You don't," Scarlett replied softly. "I judged you first," she admitted quietly, back in the makeup aisle. "Before you even spoke, I had already decided exactly who you were." Nathaniel stared down at his water glass. "I get that a lot," he said, his voice completely level. A guy alone in a cosmetics store, buying stuff he clearly doesn't get. It's an easy assumption. It was still wrong. "Maybe," she whispered. He paused, knowing how quick people are to judge. "I'm used to being misread. It happens when your actions don't match what's really going on inside." She nodded slowly. "We've all felt that sting of realizing we judged blindly. I think I spent these last few years trying not to misread people," she said. "Judging everything way too fast, too defensively. Seeing the outer surface, but getting the actual truth completely wrong." He gave her a long, steady look, the kind of look a single father gives when someone finally sees him. "You still helped," he told her. "That matters." "Someone helped me once," she replied. "At a moment when I really didn't want to need saving." I remembered that tonight. They sat together in the heavy silence. Chloe returned from the living room, holding a simple photograph in a white frame. Elizabeth laughing in the center, flanked by her young daughter and her devoted husband. She placed it right on the table between them, offering zero explanation. "Mom always liked people who actually did things instead of just talking," Chloe said. She looked at Scarlett with the direct, unfiltered gaze of a grieving child who chooses to trust, but wants you to know she didn't make that choice lightly. She said those people were rare. Neither adult made a sound. Looking satisfied, Chloe grabbed the picture frame and wandered back to the living room. Before slipping out that night, Scarlett left a small drawstring bag on the kitchen counter. It held a mild cleanser, some foundation, 2 palette eyeshadows, and a bottle of setting spray. Sitting right on top was a little round mirror in a pink case, and hidden underneath it a plain index card. The struggling dad found it while cleaning up after she left. He read the words. Then he placed perfectly on the counter, where his daughter would spot it tomorrow. The note read, "You never need to hide anything to be truly beautiful. You already are, even while you are just learning how to be brave." Nathaniel lingered at the door long after Scarlett vanished, staring into the quiet parking lot washed in warm amber light. He was exhausted in that bone-deep way people get when they have been carrying a massive burden and have finally set it down. But there was something else there too, a spark he had not felt in 14 months. A hope he never expected, never looked for, and still had no clue how to handle. Not the wild, unique grief of losing his wife, we never truly put that pain away. Something different, something much quieter, just barely starting. Something that felt, faintly, like the start of moving forward. He flipped off the kitchen light and walked back to check on his daughter. She was fast asleep, that special blue dress hanging right on her bedroom door. The small pink mirror resting on the nightstand right beside her. Her messy hair lay completely unguarded across the soft pillow. Bathed in the hallway light, her peaceful face turned toward the open room. I stood right there in the doorway, just quietly watching her. You and I know strangers judge a clueless dad buying concealer and shimmer. They don't know who it's for. Honestly, makeup and a kind clerk's notes rarely change the world. Those awkward gestures are too small. The world is incredibly harsh, our grief runs deep, and the road feels long. But sometimes those judged little choices actually save one night. One morning, one important school photograph. Just one little girl's choice to face the bright light instead of hiding away. And sometimes, if we stop judging and just pay attention to the timing, one good night is exactly enough.